بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum to everyone, and Ramadan Mubarak or Ramadan Kareem. I hope it's going well for everybody and we're making the most of this time. It's a challenging one, the best of times, but when we're all, or most of us at least, we're in the house and we don't really, if you haven't had a chance to get out and try and kind of fill your time, then it's much more challenging. And I know there's these lots of really good messages going out about making the most of our time and using it for ibadah and stuff, but we're all human, and we're all used to particular habits, and it's hard to put those to one side and somehow just try and maximize them. So do your best, inshallah, and just judge yourself by your last Ramadan, and that's probably the best measure to have, inshallah. So try, and if you don't read Quran, then try and make an effort to read some Quran. If you can't, if reading a full mushaf is going to be difficult for you, then try and read a juz and try and do it over the course of the month. There's an immense reward in completing the Quran, but there's immense reward in trying. So or rather, reward is in the trying. So if you make that effort, inshallah, you can't really go wrong. This week, what I wanted to do was I wanted to just move along a bit and start to speak a bit about the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't want to rush it and do it all in one go, so I might take the initial the first round of it will be just to kind of go through some of the people in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then next week we can revisit and I can add some details, inshallah. And to begin with, so we stopped at Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, the building of the Kaaba, and the fact that Sayyidina Ismail had married into the tribe of Jurhum. He was married twice, and there's ikhtilaf as to whether both of those marriages were amongst the Jurhum, but certainly the second marriage, which was the marriage that he endured, was to a woman of the Jurhum tribe, approved by Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, and I mentioned the story last week. And through that, he had Sayyidina Ismail had a number of children, and there's a difference of opinion as to how many children he had. There's at least the historians pretty much agree on 2 or 3 of them, but there are others that have been mentioned by various other historians. So the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, huwa Muhammad ibn Abdullah, it's Muhammad the son of Abdullah, ibn Abdul Muttalib, ibn Hashim, ibn Abdul Manaf, ibn Qusay, ibn Kilab, ibn Murrah, ibn Ka'ab, ibn Lu'ay, ibn Khalid, ibn Fihr, ibn Malik, ibn Nadr, ibn Kinana, ibn Khuzaymah, ibn Mudrika, ibn Ilyas, ibn Mudar, ibn Nizar, ibn Ma'ad, ibn Adnan. So I've mentioned either last week or in a previous session that the Arabs through which the Prophet ﷺ descended were known as the Adnani Arabs. And the Adnani Arabs were the Arabs that ultimately was a result of the marriage of Sayyidina Ismail, who himself either spoke, his mother tongue at least would have been Syriac or Aramaic, and his fathers would have been that, or perhaps even Hebrew. So when he married into the Jurhum tribe and he grew up in that tribe, he learned the language and the custom of those people. Inna nasaba Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam la yakhtalifu an-nasabun fihi ila Ma'ad ibn Adnan. That the historians, the Nasabun, are people who specialized in lineage. Yeah, so these are historians, but they really had they specialized in genealogy. Yes, the genealogists. They all agreed on the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the Prophet, from Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib all the way up to Mudar ibn Nizar ibn Ma'ad. And then from Ma'ad ibn Adnan, there's ikhtilaf on that as to how many people. Some say Ma'ad was the son of Adnan. Others say there were at least 3 generations, maybe even 4 generations, maybe even more than that, in fact, according to some, generations between Ma'ad and Adnan. وإنما اختلف النسابون من عدنان إلى إسماعيل. Sorry, not between Ma'ad and between Adnan. Sorry, I meant between Ismail and between Adnan. Some say that Adnan was the son of Ismail. Others say that he was the grandson, and some say they were up to 4 generations, maybe even more. وإنما اختلف النسابون من عدنان إلى إسماعيل. From Adnan to Ismail, there's a different opinion. لكنهم أجمعوا على أنه ينتهي إلى إسماعيل. But they all agree that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم descended from Sayyidina Ismail. وكره الإمام مالك رفع النسب إلى آدم لعدم ثبوته. Some you can find in some texts, if you were to Google it now, I'm pretty sure you'll find a lineage that goes from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam all the way back to Sayyidina Adam. Yeah, all the way back to Sayyidina Adam. They are not reliable at all. Yeah, they're not reliable at all. The historians themselves do not agree on them, and many of them consider them fabrications or just real extensions. They're made up of a number of assumptions. So Imam Malik considered it makruh to try and attribute the Prophet ﷺ, through lineage all the way back to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. And there is a narration from Sayyidina Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. He said, لما بلغ نسبه الكريم إلى عدنان, that when the Prophet ﷺ in front of him, when somebody was reciting the lineage, he said, once it got to Adnan, the Prophet ﷺ said, من ها هنا كذب النسابون. He said that after this point, the Prophet ﷺ said, according to this narration, that after Sayyidina Adnan, the genealogist lied. Now, when that's said, what that means is there's a hadith, a sound hadith narrated by Imam Muslim, if I remember correctly, where the Prophet ﷺ says that it's sufficient a lie to attribute something or to spread something that you haven't verified. Yeah, to spread something that you haven't verified. So in light of that understanding, when he says the historians lied, it means a number of things that some of them genuinely did to try and, in the world of kind of genealogists or geeks, they want to always be one step ahead, or some of them probably did. So to be able to find the extra lineage or to fill a gap, just like science now, the desperate attempt that amongst militant atheistic scientists that are trying to find this missing link between man and ape, the answers. So what you find is that there's lots of attempts happening, lots of papers that are constantly, every single year, there's hundreds if not thousands of publications, and many that never make it to publication, where there are attempts to try and do this. So it's a real race for somebody to find that missing link, and I know that's a very that's oversimplifying it. That is so I'm not of the camp that just. So I'm sure there's people out there. There are many Muslim scientists out there who think it's not as simple as just a missing link, and I do understand that. I've read somewhat on this subject matter, but anyway, that's by the by. The point is that just like scientists are on this hunt for this missing link, because that's where their credibility comes from. So that's the way they kind of get themselves ahead of the curve. In the same way, genealogists will do that. They try to find the genealogy of a rare horse, or where there's an agreed genealogy, to maybe question it. Very academic, or where a genealogy is agreed to go to a certain point to try and find the extra few people or animals in this case. It would, that was a common source of pride for people that were interested in genealogy, and although there were specialists that did this, it was commonplace for people to know their genealogy quite far. So it wasn't uncommon for a ordinary person, an ordinary Arab, to know his genealogy going back probably 10 generations very comfortably. And it wasn't uncommon for Arabs to know the genealogy of their horses and of their camels. It was actually quite common. And what distinguished somebody who was a specialist from somebody who wasn't was that a specialist could probably tell you the breed of a horse and its genealogy by looking at it. Just like, we can probably all relate to this. Everyone has a granddad or an uncle or an auntie or somebody within their village, back in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, whatever it is that you come from, that just by laying eyes on you, clapping eyes on you, they know who your parents are, they know who your grandparents are, your great grandparents were, where they came from, so on and so forth. Or sometimes it's just you telling them, by telling them that your surname, they can know that. But the point is, there are people that just have this amazing ability to recall, and there's some cultures where they really take pride in it. And you'll find this in Morocco too, and I'm sure it's true for other parts of the world. That I've been to, the first time I went to Morocco, I had I got to know a local hotel owner and a shopkeeper, and I went back 3 or 4 years later, and he remembered my name, he remembered who I was with, he remembered the room that I stayed in, he asked me about the food that I'd eaten and whether I was still going to a particular restaurant. He remembered me. And then about 5 or 6 years later, a few friends of mine came back and they said, oh, we met this person. He drove a Golf. And I remember this Golf because he'd given me a lift once. And he said, oh, he's asking about you. So it was amazing how he remembered my name. He remembered everything about me. He remembered how many siblings I had. All of these details, he really committed to memory. And it was because that's just part of their routine. And it's a great, I don't want to dismiss it as just part of their culture, because it's actually quite an important and an amazing ability, and it's something that we should all at least try to do. Remember somebody's name, something I've got to try and do actually. But it is amazing that people can do this. So it wasn't uncommon for in that time for people to recognize a lineage just by a name or by an association. But the specialists could just see a breed of horse from a distance and know exactly what the breed is, and know exactly who it was bred through, and tell you about the people that were the horse breeders of a particular area and where it originated from, and all of these fascinating things that I'm sure fascinating for them. They could tell you all of that just by clapping eyes on a horse. So that was something amazing that they had. But something that specialists in a niche is that sometimes breeds this desire to outdo one another, and that's where it became problematic. And any science, in order to maintain its credibility, and not only its credibility, but also to ensure that there isn't any deceit that's happening, where on the one hand, credibility of a science is to make sure people still recognize it as a valid science that has certain rules around it. And in terms of deceit, is to make sure people are not trying to get ahead and fabricating and adding stuff in, which isn't picked up immediately, but then later on may affect the credibility of the science. It needed to have, it needed to be special. It needed to be turned into a bit of a science, and it needed people that investigated not just the lineages, but the people that investigated those lineages and checked those lineages and so on. And we find an equivalent. You can find an equivalent of this in hadith, because hadith is also a science that was formed on the back of this fear that people will start misusing the words of the Prophet and the Prophet himself. So, and that was happening very early on. It happened in the first, after the Prophet passed away, almost immediately the wars started. The wars of Ridda took place in the Caliphate of Abu Bakr Siddiq, where there was a group of people who used to claim to be Muslims. When the Prophet ﷺ passed away, the first thing that they did was they tried to abrogate zakat, because they didn't want to spend any money anymore. So they said that the abrogation is the zakat has been abrogated through the death of the Prophet ﷺ. And that led to huge wars. A bit later on, we had the wars that ended up the Shia and the Sunni split. And that was about, again, came down to fabricated hadith, and many people were fabricating on the fada'il of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. So people were adding, narrations in hadith about the fact that Sayyidina Ali deserved to be the first caliph. And likewise, people are doing that with Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. It's not to say that just the Shia were doing it. Even amongst Ahl Sunnah, there were fabrications where people would add in narrations about Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq and the fadl, which is the rank of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, which have no real basis, or at least from what we see now, don't appear to have a basis. So what that required was, it required a systematization of confirming what the Prophet ﷺ actually said or did. And that led to the science of hadith, and then it led to the science of usulul hadith. So hadith was the initial science, which kind of partly usul hadith, but then that itself was developed a bit like the people who were masters in genealogy. Is it required a auxiliary science which looked at the particulars of chains of narration and looked at individuals. So you had a whole science called the Ilm al-Rijal, which is the science of the study of men. And by men, it means men and women. Yeah, the study of men. That means how credible is a person within a given science. So how credible is a person within genealogy? How credible is a person in the science of hadith? And then what happens is you can then decide on the validity of a hadith, not just by the merit of the narration itself, which is one way of doing it, but by the merit of the individual within the chain. If there's somebody in that chain that's known to fabricate hadith, then immediately that renders that hadith impracticable, meaning we can't use it practically anymore. So anyway, this is why Sayyidina Imam Malik radiallahu anh, he recognizing this, said it was makruh to take the lineage any further back from Sayyidina Adnan. And there's a narration, as I said, that the Prophet ﷺ himself said, كذب المؤرخون ومضر وربيعهم صريح ولد إسماعيل باتفاق جميع أهل النسل. And as for the children of Ismail, the two children of Ismail that are agreed upon by all historians, meaning it's ittifaq, which means an agreement of all historians, is that Mudar, so one of his sons' name was Mudar, and that's not the Mudar that's in the chain in the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ. It's not the Mudar within the lineage that I've read shortly, short while ago. So Ilyas ibn Mudar ibn Nizar, it's not that Mudar. There's another Mudar that comes after Adnan, between Adnan and Ismail. And all the historians agree that Mudar was the son of Ismail alayhi salam. And the other one is Rabi'ah. So Mudar and Rabi'ah are the two confirmed sons of Sayyidina Ismail. We don't know about we haven't got confirmed reports. There are 2 or 3 that are mentioned, but there's no ittifaq, agreement of all the historians as to who those sons were. And that's why some say one of those was Adnan, and others differ on that. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, Sayyidina Abbas said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إن الله خلق الخلق فجعلني من خيرهم. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah, when He created the creation itself, He made me from the choicest of them, the best of them. ثم تخير القبائل فجعلني من خير قبيلة. Then He chose the best of qabail or tribes, and he chose and then I was from the choicest of them. In other words, He then chose a tribe from them. ثم تخير البيوت, and then Allah chose a house from among that tribe. فجعلني من خير بيوتهم, and He made me from the best of their houses of that tribe. فأنا خيرهم نفسا وخيرهم بيتا. So therefore I am the best of them, both as in terms of my form, myself, my being, وخيرهم بيتا, and the best of them in terms of the household that I come from. Yeah, and there are many other narrations. The Prophet specifically, he tells us and there's no wala fakhr, and there's no boast. So the Prophet would tell us these things, but he didn't tell us this to boast. It was just he was telling us these facts so that we can learn and benefit from them. وعن وائل ابن الأسقع رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله استفى من ولد إسماعيل إبراهيم إسماعيل, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose from the children of Ibrahim Ismail, and واصطفاني من ولد إسماعيل, and He chose واصطفى من ولد إسماعيل, and He chose from the children of Ismail the Banu Kinana, and He chose from the Banu Kinana Quraysh, and He chose from the Quraysh Hashim, and He chose me from Hashim. So these are the various tribes then. So we have the Banu Hashim, which sits within the larger tribe, which is known as the Quraysh, which sits within the larger tribe, which is known as the Banu Kinana, which the Banu Kinana are then the children who go back to Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. And from Ismail, of course, we go to Sayyidina Ibrahim. So we have a number of sub-tribes. So what I want to do is, we haven't got long whatsoever now, so I want to just touch on some of what we've heard from historians about the the forefathers of the Prophet. Yeah. So we've heard about Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam to, in a fair amount of detail. We've heard a bit about Sayyidina Ismail and Sayyidina Hajar, a bit about Sayyidina Sara. There's much more can be said on them. I mean, I can spend 10 weeks just talking about their lives and the history, because I omitted a whole other part to the life of Sayyidina Ibrahim, which is through his son Ishaq. There's a huge amount to be said there, but just for the sake of brevity and not getting too sidetracked, I want to stay in just following the kind of immediate ascendants or descendants, whichever way you go, of the Prophet ﷺ, which is why I didn't go down that road. The Prophet ﷺ is, as all the historians say, and as the Prophet himself tells us, as I've covered in those two hadiths, came from the most noble lineage, and there's no question about that. It's not something that any of the historians would dispute. وَلَهُمْ مَكَانٌ مَكِينٌ وَمَقَامٌ بَيْنَ الْعَرَبِ عَظِيمٌ. And they had a particular status amongst the Arabs. They always did. The people that were to become the forefathers after the time of Sayyidina Ismail, every single one of them had a status within the Arabs. وَقَدْ اشْتَهَرُوا بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالشُّجَاعِ وَالْإِقْدَامِ وَالْكَرَمِ كما يتبين ذلك مما نذكره بالاختصار من مناقبهم وأخبارهم. And each of them had a quality that they were known by. All of these comes together in the person of the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah. So, for example, Ma'ad. Right, so if we start with Ma'ad. Now, it's said that Ma'ad had 4 sons. Yeah. So Ma'ad is who? Ma'ad is the son of Adnan. And Adnan, between Adnan and Ismail, we don't know what that gap is like. We know Sayyidina Ismail definitely had 2 sons, and he had other sons, but there's no confirmation there's no ittifaq, which is the agreement as to who they are. One of them may have been Adnan, or he may have been a grandchild or a great-grandchild, or maybe 4 generations or more between Sayyidina Ismail and Adnan. Adnan's son, everyone agrees, was Ma'ad. Ma'ad had, it said, 4 sons. Yeah, Ma'ad, it is said, had 4 sons. Ma'ad was known for his military ability. Yes, so Ma'ad was known for his military ability. And when the historians spoke about him, they said, وَلَمْ يُحَارِبْ أَحَدًا إِلَّا رَجَعَ بِالنَّصْرِ, that he never fought a battle except he came back victorious. Yeah. So Ma'ad was known as he was known for his military prowess, and he was referred to as amongst the historians as Abu al-Arab. He's known as the father of the Arabs. Yeah, because of his sheer ability to go and conquer. Right? So he was Abu al-Arab. He had 4 sons. He may have had more, but there's 4 that are mentioned by many of the historians. So one of his 4 sons was, because otherwise it'll probably get a bit too extended. One of his sons was Nizar. Right? So this is the next in line to the Prophet ﷺ. So from Adnan to Ma'ad, from Ma'ad to Nizar. And Nizar, it said, had 2 sons, or at least 2 that were significant to this lineage of the Prophet ﷺ. He had 2 sons that were significant to the Prophet ﷺ. Now, Nizar was known for his beauty, for his being handsome. Ajmalu ahli zamanihi, they say he was one of the most handsome men of his time. Wa arjahum aqlan, and he was known to be very intelligent, a supremely intelligent man. Nizar. So Nizar comes from, so his father is Ma'ad, who's known for his military abilities. Nizar himself is a very extremely handsome man who has these 2 sons. One is Rabi'a, and the other one is Mudar. Yeah, one is Rabi'a, and the other one is Mudar. And it's through Mudar that we have the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah, so then we have Nizar. One of his sons is Mudar, and the other one is Rabi'a. Yeah, the other one is Rabi'a. Mudar is he was also known, Kana Jamilan Kadhalik. He was also known for his handsome features. وَلَمْ يَرَ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا أَحَبَّهُ. But he also had this quality that whenever people met him, he just had this thing about him, and we probably all know people like this, that just have something about them that just makes you immediately comfortable. I mean, there are people that make you immediately uncomfortable, but there are people that just, when you're around them, they just make you feel at ease, and comfortable. He was one of those people. He was known to be extremely handsome, and people just immediately took a liking to him. Yeah. Mudar. وَلَمْ يَرَهُ أَحَدٌ إِلَّا أَحَبَّهُ. Nobody saw him except that they immediately were attracted to him in terms of his intelligence. He was also a great poet. Right? And there are some remnants of his poetry and his couplets and his hikam, his wisdoms that are still found in the books of history, which are some of which I have with me, but I won't go into that, inshallah, just because of time. Now, Mudar had two sons, and one of those, the one that's significant to the Prophet ﷺ, was Ilyas. Yeah, so he had two sons. One of them was Ilyas. Ilyas was known as Ilyas Bain al-Arab ka Luqman al-Hakim. Yeah, they used to say about him that Ilyas to the Arabs was like Luqman. Luqman, there's a whole surah named after him. Luqman al-Hakim, the great wise man who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about in the Quran. Yeah, speaks about who was born into, who was captured, became, enslaved, was given this great glad tidings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's ikhtilaf as to whether he is a prophet or not. But they say, but he was known for his just amazing ability to just cut through and see, to live a life of, a godly life, that he just had this ability to just see what was good for him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this tawfiq. And they used to say, that he was offered, either you can have everything that you want in this world, or you can have, you can choose a life of solitude, and he would choose. Every time he chose to shun the dunya, and he chose a life of kind of solitude and piety. So that's why he's known as Al-Hakim, because he always made these very wise choices, the right choices. And they say that Ilyas was someone like him, that he also had this ability to be able to, so he had this military genius kind of through his lineage. He had the beauty, he had the intelligence, he had the wit, the poetry, but what he also had, and he had the kind of the likability factor, but additionally he had this great wisdom, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed him with. And then Ilyas had three children that are relevant to the Prophet's lineage. One of those is Mudrika. Yeah, so Mudrika, and Mudrika then was his son was Khuzaymah, and Khuzaymah was then the son of Kinana, and Kinana to Nadr, and then to Malik, and then Fihr. So Khuzaymah had three sons. One of them was Kinana, and then Kinana himself had 5 children, and one of them was Nadr. Nadr was the one who was known. There's different opinions as to who this was. Some say it was both. And Nadr was given the title Quraysh. Yeah, Nadr was the one who was given the title Quraysh, and others say Fihr, yeah, who's going to come afterwards. It was Fihr that was given the title Quraysh. And they were both given this title of Quraysh. Why? Because they were. Well, in fact, I'll go on to that. I'll spend more time on this next week, inshallah. I'll repeat. So Mudrika had 2 children. One of them was Khuzaymah. Khuzaymah had 3 children, of which one was Kinana. Yeah, so Mudrika to Khuzaymah, Khuzaymah to Kinana. Kinana had had 6 children. Beg your pardon, 6 children. Kinana had 6 children, of which one was Nadr. Yeah, one was Nadr. And Nadr was known as Quraysh, which is where you get the name Quraysh from. Yeah, the tribe of Quraysh. And then Nadr had Malik, right? So one child, Malik. Malik then had Fihr. Yeah, Malik Fihr. And Fihr is also known as Quraysh. He was also known as Quraysh. And all the Quraysh definitely do go back to Fihr. Yeah, they all definitely go back to Fihr. and naturally, therefore, they go back to another two. But because they all go back to Fihr, you could say that Fihr was actually the reason why Quraysh is called Quraysh. Yeah. So Fihr was also known as Quraysh. So what we find is basically from Fihr. So from Fihr, if you go up again to Malik, up to Nadr, right, up to Kinana. So everyone from above Fihr to Kinana are known as Kinani. They're the Kinani tribes, the people of Kinana or Banu Kinana. That's why the hadith says the Banu Kinana, and from Banu Kinana, the Quraysh. And everyone up to Fihr, including Fihr, are known as the Quraysh. Okay, so everyone from Malik to Nadr up to Kinana are known as the Banu Kinana. So all the children of Kinana, from Nadr and his 5 brothers, and from Malik, everyone up to that point are known as the Banu Kinana. Yeah. So that's the greater tribe. And then within that, specifically at the point of Fihr, when Fihr comes along, that tribe then, from then onwards, they're known as Qurayshis, the Qurayshis. Yeah. The Qurayshis were, of course, from the Kinana, so they were Banu Kinana, but they take on this sub-tribe status of being from the Quraysh. Yeah. And it was actually from Fihr. Fihr was the 6th grandfather, and I'll mention his name and I'll come back to him later on. Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah. Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah, the great Sahabi. Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah, who we will speak about, inshallah. Amazing, amazing man who fought in many battles, fought alongside Khalid ibn al-Walid, known as Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah, the wounded, or the one who inflicts wounds. Yeah. So we will speak about him, inshallah. Perhaps next week I'll touch on him just so that you're aware. But inshallah, when the time comes, we'll spend a lot more time on each of these Sahaba. Yes, 5 minutes to go. Okay, I'm gonna hurry along. From Fihr, we then have from Fihr, then you have Ghalib. Yeah, Ghalib was one of three sons. Yeah, Ghalib was one of 3 sons. And Ghalib then, his son was Lu'ay. His son was Lu'ay. Yeah, Ghalib had 2 children, but Lu'ay is the one that's significant to the Prophet's life. Okay, and then Lu'ay, from Lu'ay you have Ka'ab. Now, what's the significance of Sayyidina Ka'ab, other than the fact that he is the great grandfather of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He was also the 8th grandfather of Sayyidina Umar. So this is where it's at Ka'ab that the lineage of Sayyidina Umar links back to the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. So it's at Ka'ab. Ka'ab is the 8th grandfather of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. And it's said about Sayyidina Ka'ab that he used to gather people on a Friday, and he would ask and he would remind them of God, and he would call them to this. He would tell them that there would be somebody that would come after him, and it may be in his lifetime, and if it is, that people should accept him. And so, in other words, he forewarned the coming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Sayyidina Ka'ab used to, on Friday, it said, he used to tell of the coming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fi mab'ath an-nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wa yunabbi'uhum, and he used to tell them that he would be from his children. Yeah. And he used to order the people around him to make sure when he comes to follow him. Ka'ab, you have Murrah. You have from Ka'ab, you then have Murrah. And Murrah, there's 3 children that are commonly mentioned of Ka'ab's, of which one is Murrah. Now, Murrah is where the lineage of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq meets the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah? Because Murrah was the 6th grandfather for both the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, which is quite it's a beautiful thing, because Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, one of the things that he always wanted was that he always wanted to match up to anything that the Prophet did. He wanted to be like him. So even when he passed away, they say that when he was on his deathbed, he said, he asked Sayyidah Aisha, what day is it? And she said, it's the Monday. He said, what day did the Prophet pass away? It's the Monday. So he was asking, what did the Prophet wear when he passed away? And he said, he asked for the same items, that exactly the same number that the Prophet had on. He asked for the exact same so that he can be buried in the same way. So here's a man that absolutely, he just wanted to do everything that the Prophet did. He was his closest friend, but also he was, it just shows the impact that the Prophet had on, the thing is, the people that often speak highly of you, the people that don't know you very closely, that probably see the side of you that is the side that you put on, I guess when you put your front on, your best foot forward, and that's easy to maintain from a distance. It's not easy to maintain when it's close up. And to have people that spoke so highly of the Prophet ﷺ and accept him, that were from his immediate family, immediately accept him, says a huge amount about the consistency and the nature and the beauty of the Prophet ﷺ's behavior and character and his life, that people did not even question it and just submitted to him. Of course, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq being one of them. And this is another sharaf that Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq had, in that he shares at the sixth grandfather, both of them have Murrah. And also somebody else that has that meets the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ here is none other than Sayyidina Imam Malik radiallahu anhu. Imam Malik was a pure Arab. He was amongst the four schools. He is the four schools of fiqh, that is, and his lineage meets the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at Murrah. And then you have Kilab. So after Murrah, you have Kilab. And then from Kilab, now Kilab, his name was Hakim. He's known as Kilab, right? Kilab actually means dogs. Yeah, it's a plural of Kalb. Yeah. And why is he known as that? He's known that he was Luki Babihi. He was given this title because he used to go hunting with dogs. Yeah. He used to go out hunting quite a lot. That was what he enjoyed as a pastime. He would go out and hunt. And therefore he became known as the man that would carry, he would always have these dogs with him. So his name became known as a Kilab, meaning the person that was around those dogs so much, he just took on that name. It's okay. He took on that title of Kilab, and then and he's also the grandfather, the third grandfather of Sayyidah Amina. Yeah, he's the third. So this is where the lineage of Abdullah, meaning the Prophet Prophet's father and his mother meets at Kilab. Okay, it's time to go. So inshallah, I hope this has been beneficial. It's been useful. We will continue next week, where we'll go through it, and I'll speak a bit more about it, inshallah. There's details that I've missed out, but I want to make sure that I can go through as much of the lineage as possible. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I had a message this week just asking me to clarify about the Maqam Ibrahim. Now, the Maqam Ibrahim has a special place for Muslims, because it's somewhere when we do our circumambulation, we stop at the end and we do our 2 rak'ahs of nafal behind it. So the question was, what's the history of that the Maqam and the footprint? And the answer to that is there are hadith on this. There are narrations on this particular imprint. So it's said that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was constructing the Kaaba, and there's various accounts of this in terms of the particulars, and some of them are quite out there in terms of their interpretation, and some of them are probably a bit more more of a sober telling of the story. But as I understand it, as Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam was climbing higher and higher to get to place the blocks on the Kaaba, there was a flat piece of rock that was being raised up to follow him. So it was something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had ordered for this rock to be soft, to be softened, and to be just to remain under him, so he can constantly just step onto it and then place the next rock. So it kept moving up with him. So, and then it had this imprint of Sayyidina Ibrahim's foot on there. And when we go now, we see this imprint, and it seems to have what appears to be a footprint. You know, and there's ikhtilaf as to whether that still is the actual footprint of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, or whether it's eroded now and then there's just the markings, because there are markings around it. So there are scholars that say actually, you know, with time that erosions happen, so it's not as visible, but the markings certainly are. So so that's the history behind it. And in terms of the 2 rak'ahs of nafal, that actually came from, that was one of the, again, one of the great contributions of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh, because there is there was, you know, the Sahaba used to do this practice, and Sayyidina Umar once said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Ya Rasulullah, ألا نتخذ من مقام إبراهيم مصلى? Do we not, should we not maybe pray and have one place dedicated as a place of reading our nawafil? And when he said that, this verse in Surah Baqarah was revealed. وَإِذْ جَعَلْنَا الْبَيْتَ مَثَابَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَأَمْنًا وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَّقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلًّى وَأَعْهِدْنَا إِلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ أَن طَهِّرَا بَيْتِيَ لِلطَّائِفِينَ وَالْعَاكِفِينَ وَالرُّكَّعِ السُّجُودِ. This verse is revealed in Surah Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when we made this bayt, this house, a place of mathaba, which comes from the same root as thawab, a place of reward, but also a place that people constantly come to and benefit from. Wa amn means a place and a sanctuary, a place of safety. And then Allah says, وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَّقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلًّى. The exact wording of Sayyidina Umar is revealed. And this is actually, there's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he said, لِكُلِّ أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم لِكُلِّ أمة محدث لكل أمة محدثات ومن محدثات هذه الأمة أو من محدث هذه الأمة عمر. That every nation has, God sends them a person that is, it's as though they are inspired by God. And the Prophet ﷺ said that, and the person in my ummah that has that gift is Sayyidina Umar. And we know that there's probably 15 or 16, maybe more verses that were revealed just because Sayyidina Umar mentioned something. And this is one of those examples of where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals a verse where the wording is almost exactly what Sayyidina Umar said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I hope that clarifies that. And then, so thereafter it became something that was a practice of the Muslims from the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam onwards, of reading these 2 rak'ahs of nafal, which didn't exist, because prior to that time people did do the equivalent of a hajj. Even before Islam, this idea of a pilgrimage was commonplace. But the specific act of praying the nafal behind the Maqam Ibrahim was something that was inspired by Sayyidina Umar, and it was revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it became a practice for the Muslims that whenever we read, when we complete our 7 circuits of the Kaaba, we go behind the Maqam Ibrahim and we read 2 rak'ahs of nafal, and it's considered to be a place of where the du'as are accepted. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to benefit from that.